Good evening, and welcome to this edition of the Hagen History Center Spring 2022 Speaker Series. I'm Jeff Sherry, Museum Educator. Our speaker tonight is Ken Springirth. His talk is entitled The Erie to Cleveland Trolley. Interconnecting interurban trolley car lines in a predominantly rural area connected Erie's scenic Perry Square to Cleveland's Public Square downtown. Before I turn it over to Ken, just a few announcements from the Hagen History Center. We're currently open to the public 6 days a week from 10 to 5, featuring new exhibits in the Watson Curtsey Mansion, Wood Morrison House, Frank Lloyd Wright's original San Francisco office, and other architectural exhibits in our brand new exhibit building. Our staff has been working on blogs and videos that are available on our website at www.eriehistory.org, and I encourage you to check those out on a regular basis. Our speaker, Ken Springirth, graduate of Drexel University of Technology, today Drexel University, with a BS degree in mechanical engineering, is the author of 49 books on railroads and trolley car systems. His father, a streetcar motorman, went to work with his uniform immaculate and shoes perfectly shined. On that trolley, Ken's dad was the CEO, policeman, repairman, and when necessary, trainer for new operators, answer person, and did whatever it was necessary to keep that car on track. It was hard for Ken to witness the scrapping of hundreds of trolley cars. On his own time, after working a regular job, Ken began researching, photographing, riding, and walking trolley car systems in the United States, Canada, Europe, Australia, and Hong Kong, and began to write about rail systems. Ken?
The scene is 1888. An Erie commercial traveler has just come back from Richmond, Virginia, all excited about a brand new electric trolley system he witnessed. And he told the audience at the Erie Board of Trade, which is analogous to today's Chamber of Commerce, how great it was to see these trolleys going 10 miles an hour. The audience was furious. They thought this guy was crazy. So they all marched out of the room. It looked like it was bedlam. And basically it looked like, oh, Erie would never get a chance for something like this. But fortunately, the new mayor, John Brady, was interested in what was going on down at Richmond, and he basically granted a franchise to the Beltline Railway System to build an electric trolley operation in Erie. And that came to fruition pretty quick because everybody was excited, everybody got on board, and the bottom line is, June 25th, 1889, an interesting event took place. People were downtown Perry Square, and suddenly they saw coming south on State Street a trolley car. As people looked at this, they were amazed. Track in the street, an overhead wire, and a discerning person would see a trolley pole protruding off the roof of the trolley with a small diameter wheel, grooved wheel contacting an overhead wire. This was the beginning of a new era, an era of electric trolleys all through not only Erie, Pennsylvania, but throughout the United States and actually throughout the world. Overnight, the system grew, and it carried a lot of passengers. And as the city system grew, there were interurbans. When we use the term interurban, this is between communities, between cities. In Cleveland, from Cleveland to Painesville, the Cleveland Painesville Eastern Trolley opened up in 1896. It was followed by a line from Ashtabula to Painesville to meet the Cleveland Painesville Eastern. That opened up in 1901. And on just a rumor that Andrew Carnegie might build a steel mill somewhere between East Springfield and East Conneaut, Ohio, a group of people decided, hey, there's a way to make some money. So they incorporated the Conneaut Erie trolley line from Erie to Conneaut, Ohio. The line was completed in 1903. It was an amazing operation, a 31-mile line, 138 different stops. It didn't mean that the trolley stopped at 138 places, but there were possibilities for passengers to get on at 138 different locations. It took 2 hours to make that trip. They had a very difficult start because the steel mill never got built. and the ridership never achieved the levels they thought it was going to achieve. So by 1909, the system almost went under. It was sold to another company for about $200,000. It became known as the Cleveland and Erie Railway Company. And they started making improvements as money and revenue conditions improved. And the bottom line is they established a park, Elk Park, west of Girard. And we might go into detail as to how the line operated from Erie to Conneaut. Well, downtown Perry Square was the center point for 3 different interurban lines. The line from Erie to Buffalo, which was completed in 1909, the line from Erie to Meadville, completed a little bit earlier, and of course the Conneaut and Erie line. So you had trolleys in 3 different directions, plus a very extensive street railway system in Erie, Pennsylvania. So the C&E line went south from Perry Square, south on State Street to 18th Street. It went west on 18th Street to Peach Street, south on Peach Street to 26th Street. Eastbound cars would use West 17th Street to get from Peach over to State. But once it got to 26th Street, it went out East 26th Street through Mill Creek, which becomes Route 20 today, but back in those days it was Ridge Road. And it went through a little town called Swanville. And Swanville today is basically memorialized by the Swanville Booster Station. That's a building that's still in existence on the south side of Route 20. And as soon as the trolley passed that booster station, the trolley to get over Walnut Creek basically had to deviate south of the Ridge Road because of the terrain. They had to deviate. They had a big trestle over Walnut Creek, and they entered Fairview via Water Street. And Water Street basically is like the hypotenuse of a triangle. It joins up with the Ridge Road on the west side of Fairview. And at this point, the trolley followed the Ridge Road on the north side of the road to Girard, Pennsylvania. At Girard, it went both sides around the Dan Rice Monument, Dan Rice Monument being in the center point of town, also the center point of a system. This was basically a single track line. They had passing sidings so that eastbound cars could pass the westbound cars and vice versa. At Girard, Pennsylvania, which was a very important passenger generating point for the line headed north on Rice Avenue, crossed the Nickel Plate Railroad on a bridge, entered what was then called Miles Grove, which later became Lake City. It made a turn to the west and it went parallel to the Lakeshore Michigan Southern Railway. The passenger station is still there, but it's now a restaurant. And after it left that point, heading west, it took a jaunt over Elk Park Road, down Elk Park Road. It passed the center, another important point on the line, the power station. The car barn was located at Elk Park. And Elk Park became the social center of West County. Remember, they didn't have a lot of different things that we have today, but Elk Park became a very important point on that line because it became like a place to generate revenue, but having people coming out from the city to the country at Elk Park. Now, from Elk Park, the line continued west. It went on the road to the Ridge Road, and basically once it left Elk Park Road and it joined the Ridge Road, it continued west through East Springfield, West Springfield, entered Ohio, entered East Conneaut, Ohio, and it crossed a huge bridge over the valley, over the Conneaut Creek and the Bessemer and Lake Erie Railroad, ended up on Harbor Street in downtown Conneaut, and you could make a convenient transfer point to the Pennsylvania and Ohio trolley, which would take you from Conneaut to Ashtabula. At Ashtabula, you could make another friendly connection to the Cleveland Painesville Eastern line, and that would take you into downtown Public Square in Cleveland. Now, 3 different lines, a distance today that we can drive in about 2.5 hours. The trolley took about 6 hours because you had to make the 2 different connections, and there would be some time lost with that. Plus, here again, each of those interurban trolley routes made stops along the way. The trolley was a very convenient link with the railroad. In the beginning, railroads and trolley lines had a few different difficulties, but over a period of time, when the railroads realized that, gee, these trolley lines are bringing passengers to our stations, and vice versa, the railroads were delivering passengers to the trolley routes. The bottom line is the trolley lines were basically for shorter distance travel because they made a lot of stops, very frequent service. If you're taking a trip from Erie to Cleveland, even in those days, you would have preferred to take the train to get there a lot quicker. But the trolley lines basically played a very important role in getting the farmer out of the mud, so to speak, because the farmer could get their products to the market by trolley, maybe to the freight station of the railroad for longer distance travel. But the bottom line is the trolley lines played a very critical line, and that Conneaut and Erie line was a link line. It was a way to link the trolley system from the east to the trolley systems in the Midwest. You could actually go from Conneaut, that's a city in central New York, through Rochester, Buffalo, Westfield, Erie, Conneaut, Cleveland, Chicago, Milwaukee, and still north to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, a distance of 1,082 miles. It would take you 4 days if you made the 20 different connections on time. If you didn't, it would take you longer. So you might say, well, why would anybody want to make that long distance trip? Actually, some people did. But for the most part, those lines served a very important interconnecting purpose. And when you look at the connections that these trolley lines had in northwestern Pennsylvania, and you see firsthand the role they played. In a map that we have, we show basically the lines from Erie to Westfield, New York, and beyond to Dunkirk, and we show west from Erie to Conneaut, and south from Erie to Meadville, over to Linesville and Conneaut Lake Park. And then we also show some of the interconnecting railroad lines. The bottom line, the trolley lines at their full height made a tremendous way of getting around. Interconnectivity between communities was very extensive here. And within the city of Erie, if you look at the map that we have on Erie, Pennsylvania, we show the routes that served downtown Erie, connecting with Waldamer Park, connecting with sections of Mill Creek, connecting with Lawrence Park, and south on Peach Street. Basically, the bottom line is that these lines provided a tremendous interconnectivity. Erie system, at its peak, operated 115 trolleys on 65 miles of track, strategically linking all the major sections of the city and suburban areas. And what many people don't realize is the fact that Erie became an economic powerhouse because of the trolleys' interconnection with the rail lines. Businesses looked at Erie in a very special way. Erie attracted a lot of companies because Erie had an outstanding network of railways, both in the city with the trolley systems, the interurban lines, and of course the fascinating long-distance railroad lines that we had. So Erie was positioned to be in a very critical spot. It helped tremendously during World War I. In fact, the center point, there were 2 center points in Erie. For the interurban lines, it was Perry Square, but for the city lines themselves, it was 12th and State. Because of the importance of connecting east and west by trolley, the government basically paid for the cost of what was known as a Grand Union. At a Grand Union, there were enough tracks that you could go straight or make a right or left turn from any approach track at 12th and State. Only 3 cities in the United States had a Grand Union. Erie was one of them. It was amazing. The government wanted that in place during World War I because for the war effort, Erie at that time played a major role in the war effort. And having that tremendous collection of switches and tracks at 12th and State facilitated travel by trolley from the West Side industries to the East Side industries. And the other thing that many people may not realize is the industries along East Lake Road didn't come to Erie by accident. When you look at General Electric and Hammermill Paper, they came because the trolley line at that time, around 1910, only went on East Lake Road as far as East Avenue. East of East Avenue was farmland. So when Hammermill came to town and when GE came to town, they basically negotiated with the trolley company, and the trolley company agreed to extend their lines to serve those industries. If the trolley line would not have been able to do that, or would have been unwilling to do that, we would have never seen the major industries in Erie, Pennsylvania. Erie has the trolley lines to thank for those major industries, which have served the community very well over the years. So the bottom line is the trolley played a very important role in our community. Also, from a social standpoint, the Boston store would charter trolleys, at least 4 of them during the summertime at their store in 7th and State for trips to Elk Park. Elk Park was the social center for West County in Erie County, Pennsylvania. It was the major center, and the trolley line used that to basically enhance their revenues. And in the city, the Erie Street Railway system basically developed Waldemere Park. Once again, Waldemere Park didn't appear there by accident. The trolley line created Waldemere Park. Waldemere Park was created because during the week there was a lot of business, particularly at rush hours, serving the major industries that were connected by trolley line. Midday traffic was light, and on the weekends traffic was very light. However, with the creation of Waldemere Park, it was a revolutionary change because it enhanced the number of passengers using the trolley system on off-peak hours, particularly weekends. So once again, the trolley played a dramatic role in the development of Erie, Pennsylvania, both from an industrial standpoint and from a social standpoint. And when you look at the contribution it made during World War I, it was phenomenal. Now, during that time period, the Henry Ford mass-producing automobiles, and the point in time where he reduced the price of his Model A Ford from $500 to $260, that was transformational from an automobile standpoint. What it did is it resulted in a lot of people buying automobiles, particularly in the West County area. By the 1920s, the trolley company was in serious economic trouble. In fact, it was ready to go under. In 1922, the Buffalo House Wrecking Corporation bought the line at scrap price of $75,000, and obviously the name tells everything about it. Within a few days, on September 16th, 1922, that's 100 years ago, the C&E trolley line was the first line to basically be abandoned. And it was like a domino effect. Once that happened, our link, and that link from the east to the west was very important because the C&E line permitted travel from the eastern part of New York State to the Midwest. This was the only place in the United States that you could take a trolley from the eastern part of the country to the Midwest. No other place had that. So with the loss of the CE&E line, we no longer had that ability to do that. And the Erie Street Railway system was suffering because during the time of the Depression, that ridership, which peaked at over 14 million in 1922, during the Depression, declined to about 4 million. By 1935, the handwriting was on the wall. On May 12th, 1935, the last trolley operated in Erie, Pennsylvania. And you look at the contribution the trolley made, and it was amazing. It was a prime reason that Erie became the economic powerhouse of the United States. Along with the railroad, the railroads plus the trolleys worked hand in hand to give Erie that very important distinction. But there's a happy ending to this story, because one of the lines that served the Cleveland area and contributed to the interurban growth was the Shaker Heights Rapid. Two brothers, Mathis and Oris Van Schwerigen, built an upscale suburban development on the east side of Cleveland, in the eastern suburban area, Shaker Heights. And they basically developed a high-speed line from Terminal Square, Public Square, downtown Cleveland, from the Cleveland Union Terminal, using private right-of-way to Shaker Square. That 6-mile high-speed private right-of-way basically saved the trolley line. But these two brothers were incredibly smart. They built their upscale community, and almost every house in their development was able to be within walking distance from the two trolley lines that they had established as branch lines from the main trunk of the line from Shaker Square to downtown Cleveland. Because of their insight, their foresight, that line was able to survive even the thrust of the automobile age, and survived. And during World War II, the city of Shaker Heights, in their infinite wisdom, decided to make sure it would never get converted to bus operation. They purchased the line. They had a 20-year mortgage. They paid it off in 1964. Shaker Heights became the poster child for the trolleys in North America. And in fact, during the Arab oil embargo of 1973, Shaker Heights was used as an example of a successful trolley system. But during that Arab oil embargo, when it was difficult sometimes to get gas for our cars, the United States government got worried. They sent experts over to Western Europe. And remember, we rebuilt Western Europe after World War II. And these experts were shocked. They found modern, up-to-date trolley systems. They came back to the United States excited but worried. How could they explain a concept that's been around for many years like the trolley? So they coined a new expression, light rail transit. And Shaker Heights became the poster child for light rail transit. And the amazing thing about this is that in 1980, thousands of people came into downtown San Diego because San Diego built the first new trolley line in the United States in years. They opened it in 1980 from San Diego to San Ysidro, which is a 15-mile distance just across the border from Tijuana, Mexico. Why did they do that? The expressway system in California, which California is famous for, couldn't handle the growth that they were experiencing in their particular part of California. The line was an instant success. And basically, Los Angeles, which had scrapped all their trolley lines, Los Angeles had the largest trolley system in the world, and they converted to an expressway operation. However, that became a problem. So in 1990, my wife and I were just accidentally happened to be in Los Angeles to witness the opening of the new trolley from downtown Los Angeles to Long Beach. Thousands of people were once again there. And the amazing thing is that our friends up in Canada were not to be left behind. Edmonton, Alberta, Canada opened up a brand new system in 1978. We were there for that, and we were also there 3 years ago, 1919, Kitchener in Ontario, which is about 40 miles west of Toronto. They opened up a brand new system in Kitchener, Ontario. 73,000 people were there for the first 3 days of riding. What's significant about that? The Kitchener-Waterloo area, which has a population of about 400,000 people, they are anxious to save their precious farmland. They realize that they just can't have urban sprawl. They built that trolley line, a new line, deliberate to try to strengthen their downtown area. It was thrilling to me to be able to watch people in line. And in Canada, they're very polite. They love people from the United States. And the bottom line is to see a trolley line get in place in the modern generation today, it's amazing. That line is paying dividends to the community. That area, the Kitchener-Waterloo area, is Canada's technology center. Think of it. Their main technology center has a new trolley line. It's called a light rail line. And the other amazing thing about Canada is that their per capita bus riding is double that of the United States. The bottom line is our neighbors to the north, our neighbors in Europe, and our neighbors across the world never got rid of the trolley. If the trolley car had been invented in 2022, it would have been declared the outstanding transportation event of the world, because it's the only transit vehicle that you can put in a subway, on a street, on a private right-of-way, on an elevated structure. You can't do that with any other vehicle. The trolley line has come back, and basically I'm very happy, very proud to hear that, very proud to see it. It's a tremendous opportunity that we have today. The fact that our forefathers had the vision to get those systems in place, and we're slowly beginning to realize they weren't a bunch of dummies. They did a lot of good things years ago. That's why your Hagen History Center in Erie is so important. Your center basically is the think tank for northwestern Pennsylvania. I want to congratulate you for what you do, what you've done in the past, what you'll be doing in the future. It's a privilege. This community has the privilege of your group being here, and I wish you the best. And for those of you who are listening tonight, I'm so thankful for your listening. Thank you for the pleasure of your time tonight.
Thank you, Ken. Excellent talk. You know, I gather, and what I take away most from your talk is that the American reliance on the automobile in the 20th century is what killed the trolley system.
Exactly, because when Henry Ford made that dramatic change, the mass production line that he was part of and really expedited, and it reduced the cost of an automobile ownership. When he went from $500 to $256 for that automobile, it was like the public just clamored for that. And I could see why that would happen, because the trolley had a hard time competing. You didn't have to look at a schedule. You didn't have to worry about, oh, gee, I'm going to have to, you know, I have to watch myself time-wise. The business salesperson could make his runs without relying on the trolley. So they lost a lot of business. But when you look around the world, our counterparts didn't throw away a very important resource. And if you look at our competition throughout the world, particularly in places like China, China is now the dominant builder of subway cars in the United States. They did that in the last 5 years. All the major developments for trolleys come out of Western Europe or China. And when you see, for example, in the city of Toronto, they have put in place over the last X number of years a new fleet of cars built by a company called Bombardier. Bombardier is not a United States company. Basically, they farm out stuff all over the world for those new cars. Cars are very complicated. They're beautiful. We don't have the same setup in the United States. We do have one car builder, and it happens to be in Pennsylvania, called Brookville Equipment Corporation. They've done an outstanding job, but they don't get the same kind of government support that Bombardier gets in their counterparts in Europe. So there's a big difference. There's a dramatic difference. And I think if we really want to be energy independent, we have to start taking a look at what's going on. We have to start catching up with our competition. We shouldn't be behind. Right now, we're way behind, and that's not good.
No, and it goes back to what I said earlier about the American independent-minded, independent spirit, where I want to drive my car. I don't want to rely on a trolley or a train or whatever it might be. Yeah.
But I think we can make both work. And the bottom line is, if we're going to be successful, if we want to maintain leadership in the world, we're the world's leader, but we're not the world's economic power now because, most of industry, I can't even buy an American-made set of hand clippers to cut the grass. It comes from another part of the world. I think we have to rethink what we're doing, Jeff. I think we have some opportunities, and if we do the right thing, we can once again regain the leadership from an industrial standpoint. Baldwin Locomotive Works was the largest builder of locomotives in the world. St. Louis Car Company in St. Louis, Missouri, built the largest fleet of modern streetcars in the world, some of which are still running in the United States today. We had leadership. There is no reason why we can't regain economic leadership. It takes a discipline, it takes the will to do something, and it takes a recognition to realize that if you got somebody that's ahead of you in something and you want to be the leader, you got to figure out a way to catch up and get ahead.
That's right. Well, I'd like to thank our speaker, Ken Springirth, for an excellent talk and remind all of our viewers out there that our next talk will be on Wednesday, March 16th, 2022 at 7 p.m. when Dr. Andrew Roth, who is the scholar in residence at the Jefferson Educational Society, will speak on the origins of St. Patrick's Day. So be sure to tune in then. Thank you again, Ken, for presenting, and good night.
Thank you.
Good night, all.